From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andrea Nakano.
And I'm Brian Hackney. In the panorama of threats to the Bay Area, none is bigger than earthquakes. And the East Bay was rattled by a cluster of them today. A 3.8 near San Ramon started things off at 9:38 this morning. 5 more aftershocks followed in the next 60 minutes. The swarm was near the 15-mile-long Pleasanton Fault, a branch of the Calaveras.
Our cameras were on the ground earlier looking for damage and talking to neighbors about what they felt.
And then it was just an instant jerk and everything kind of rattled around. So it definitely left me rattled up a little bit.
And let's bring in meteorologist Darren Peck for a closer look.
Interesting setup on this one today, Andrea. You can see the network of faults spread out across the bay. This one happened over here this morning, and by this one, I mean there was a swarm of them. Biggest one was a 3.7. So you've got the Calaveras Fault there going through the inland East Bay, going right up 680. See that white diagonal line out there? That's actually the Diablo Thrust Fault, a totally different kind of earthquake fault that we normally think of around here. It's actually the one that's responsible for helping to build Mount Diablo. Long story short, let's come back out now for the wide view. It's probably the combination of those two different faults right next to one another that helped create this swarm today. The biggest one was a 3.7, and that one happened at 9:39. Chances are, if you felt this at all today, this was the one you felt, and look how widely this was felt. Our epicenter sits right there. You've got all of these locations reporting light blue, showing that they did feel it. So you're not alone if you did feel this one today. We're going to talk about the rain coming up in the complete forecast in just a bit because we are still on track for that. I'll see you with more on Thursday's rain in a few minutes, guys. For now, back to you.
Alrighty, Darren, there's another top story tonight developing in Washington now. According to a source familiar with the matter, a deal has been reached to pass a funding measure that could soon reopen the government. 8 Democrats are said to be voting in favor of a negotiated deal, including Tim Kaine of Virginia. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said, quote, we plan to vote today, though no vote has been formally scheduled yet. We'll continue to update you as soon as we learn more. Andrea.
Well, Brian, meantime, air travel across the country continues to be severely impacted as the government shutdown enters day 40. More than 9,000 flights have been delayed today, with more than 2,000 outright cancellations. What was a 4% capacity cut on Friday could dramatically increase over the next few days if this government shutdown continues, with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warning this morning that the total cuts could reach as high as 20%.
I look to, the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, you're going to see air travel be reduced to a trickle. We have a number of people who want to get home for the holidays. They want to see their family. They want to celebrate this great American holiday. Listen, many of them are not going to be able to get on an airplane.
And it's not just delays and cancellations, but the actual safety of getting on an airplane that has travelers worried. Don Lynn is at SFO with more now.
Yeah, Brian, Andrea, a lot of passengers say had they known how hard the government shutdown would affect air traffic controllers, they would have postponed their trips. Granted, they booked these trips months ago, long before the shutdown even started. Now, beyond the safety concerns, a lot of them say it's also a hassle to travel right now. According to FlightAware at SFO today, 46 cancellations and more than 200 delays. The Edelman family is riding out a 2-hour delay at SFO, hoping to get home to New Jersey.
We're not going to be home until well after midnight, which, for the kids is going to be a tough turnaround for school in the morning.
Our son is going to be graduating high school, so we're visiting colleges out in California. That trip would have been postponed.
Helicopter 77.
They're worried about safety, especially as air traffic controllers work under the stress of no pay and mandatory overtime.
958 will be ready for departure, 1 left.
If we had to plan it all over again, knowing that you have the staffing shortages that are in effect now, I think we would have absolutely delayed this trip and planned it for a different time.
But many aviation experts say even with the distractions controllers are facing, it remains safe to fly.
I would fly personally. I would not be afraid to fly. I'm confident that the workforce is dedicated and that they know when to say uncle when the traffic gets too heavy for them.
Harvey Skolnick is a retired air traffic controller of 38 years. He says, yes, it's tough to focus when controllers are worried about mortgages and picking up second jobs. But he says the men and women in those towers are highly trained professionals.
When I had emotional factors that were affecting my life, when I sat down at that radar scope and I plugged in and I said, turn right heading 130, climb and maintain 5,000, that's all I thought of.
If you didn't have to fly, maybe it's a better time not to fly right now.
Julie Gainsley is a retired flight attendant of 48 years. She now works as an airport concierge at SFO.
I would choose not to fly at this time, not so much because it's not safe, but because it's a hassle. It's long lines, canceled flights, not getting you where you really want to go on time.
Even though she had a few close calls in the air during her career, Julie still believes flying is the safest way to travel. But it's a tough sell for the Edelman family and others who see staffing shortages growing at air traffic control towers across the country.
Who wants to bring their family aboard a plane when you don't know that you have the absolute ideal conditions?
Here's a live look at a TSA security checkpoint. Traffic is picking up this Sunday evening. Now, even for those who feel it's safe to fly, say they worry about the shutdown dragging on because the volume is only going to pick up from here on. As we get closer to Thanksgiving, they expect a lot more people flying. And they say it does get a little dicey when you have so many planes and so many people flying if those conditions persist. And of course, 2.5 weeks away from Thanksgiving. For now, live here at SFO, I'll send it back to you.
All righty, thanks, Don. Given the news that we had just a minute ago, maybe they'll figure this out. We shall see. Live at SFO, that's Dahlin. Thank you. Andrea?
Well, the uncertainty over the funding of SNAP benefits took another turn late last night. The Trump administration is now calling for states to, quote, immediately undo any actions taken to provide food assistance to SNAP recipients. It follows a Supreme Court decision that sided with the administration on halting the funding, at least temporarily. A memo from the Agricultural Department threatens harsh financial penalties for states that do not comply with the new order. 42 million people are enrolled in SNAP nationwide, with more than 5 million here in California.
Veterans also feeling the shutdown sting. John Ramos was at various Veterans Day events and has this report.
San Francisco's Veterans Day Parade was held at a new location this year, here along Fisherman's Wharf. It was a good opportunity to talk to people about how they feel the nation is treating those who serve in the military.
Left, right on, left, right on, left.
San Francisco's salute to veterans had a familiar sound, but in new surroundings. Instead of its traditional march up Market Street, it was relocated to the Embarcadero. Brian Braden turns out for every parade honoring the military, but he thought the change in location was not a sign of support.
The common San Francisco folk are not here today. This is all tourists. They're stuck here, so they might as watch. But the city doesn't support military, and though we've saved them and our country for 250 years, the locals don't support. That's why they had to move it off Market Street to tourist land.
It's true, there weren't huge crowds along the route, and the city has had a conflicted view of the military over the years.
We dismiss the military as non-essential. So what? Everyone have a love fest. It's like, that's the dream, that's the prayer. But the reality is, since Adam and Eve, we've been
Braden supports President Trump and says he helped get Navy veterans health benefits during his first term. But this time around, the administration has been cutting staff at VA hospitals, which has led to protests by veterans who say it is restricting their access to health care.
When they keep cutting all the personnel out that you depend on that get you your appointments, doctors, nurses to help you, when they eliminate their jobs, then you're left in limbo because it's so much extra work on that one doctor. He can't handle everybody. With them cutting all the benefits and cutting personnel, it's horrible.
Are you surprised that that's happening under this administration at all?
Unfortunately, no, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. He's only in it for himself, and his whole administration, they just look out for each other.
And even some who strongly support the military are concerned about how they are being used. LaToya Pitcher is from a military family and was proudly watching her daughter perform in the parade. but she is appalled by President Trump's deployment of the National Guard to U.S. cities.
One of the most honorable things you can do in your life is to serve your country as a patriot, and to be used for political gain is completely disgusting.
Do you think that's what's happening now?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because they're not being used to protect citizens, they're being used against citizens. They're being weaponized against the people that they have sworn an oath and a duty to serve.
Retired Navy Captain James Wong was an honored guest at the parade. The Vietnam vet says he thinks the government is doing a better job caring for returning service members than in his time, but he is clearly uncomfortable with Secretary Pete Hegseth's eagerness to change the Defense Department to the Department of War.
I mean, you know, the original title was correct. I mean, we were the Department of Defense, and really was meant to defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I mean, that's what we took an oath for, and it's difficult.
So does it feel like they're viewing the military as something different now?
Yes, I think so. I think it's more, I mean, yeah.
He wasn't comfortable saying anything else. But Jerry Driscoll, who was a Marine reservist during Vietnam, said regardless of political stance, we need to respect what veterans have done and support those in need.
I hope it's getting better for the veterans, especially the ones that are suffering from all the wars that we had. There's a lot of people that just don't even think of veterans. This is the sad part. You know, they're worried about themselves.
Yeah.
And they forget people really put out.
Veterans Day is about the veterans, and the hope is that we can stop fighting amongst ourselves long enough to thank those who fight for the country.
All right, we are now close enough to Thursday's rain that we are able to start visualizing it on the virtual map. Of course, amounts and timing are going to really be the story to look at. It's one thing to look at how much rain we might get. And even at that, there's a lot of question marks in just how much we might get. There's a big range of possibilities. Timing is also still a question. We're going to look at the current state of affairs in this forecast coming up after the break. All right, we're going to get into the details on the rain coming our way, but that's not getting here till Thursday. So most of this discussion, we will be talking about how that's going to come together on Thursday. But we're not there yet. We got a couple of days beforehand, which are going to look more like the view out the window, like tomorrow. Did you notice how warm it was out there today? Many places 10 to 11 degrees above average, and we're keeping that. Take a look at the daytime highs for tomorrow. Go ahead and pick out some of those numbers for the inland East Bay. You're going to have plenty of sunshine on Monday and Tuesday, by the way. These are Monday's numbers, but you could pretty much plan Tuesday this way as well. This is going to be quite the head fake. A little bit of weather whiplash coming our way this week. Let's get down to the South Bay. With temperatures that are sitting here about 10 to 12 degrees above average. And it's not just here. We get down into Monterey. You can see what the numbers look like down here for you guys as well. Look at that number for Hollister. It's almost going to be 90 degrees there. So it is going to be a bit jarring when we go to this change that gets here by Thursday from the system brewing out here in the Pacific. And we're still seeing that beautifully well developed shield of clouds. It doesn't look as beautiful as it did yesterday, but that's our leading edge cold front. Let's put the rain into it. So we'll say goodbye to what the updating real world imagery has to say about this storm. And instead now we're going to put the futurecast imagery in there where we'll see the rain. And for that, we are going to stay on the virtual map. So let's put that in. I'm just going to play you from where it is now and watch what happens. The rain that is going to get pulled our way, first of all, goes the wrong direction. Then it gets picked up by another little impulse of energy coming out of the Pacific and swept onshore. So we're still getting this rain. Now, if you look at it here, that says Wednesday night when the leading edge comes in. That's a bit of an earlier arrival according to the American model, which, by the way, that is what we visualize when we look at it on the virtual set. If you're up on this kind of thing, the inside baseball stuff to a forecast, the American model and the European model. We just looked at the American model. The European model typically has been doing a better job recently. And for that one, we're going to put it into the monitor where we can slow things down and see what this one has to say. And the story is almost identical. So let's talk about where things stand. Wednesday night, we see some of the leading edge showers come in. Not a lot, but plan on some rain as early as Wednesday evening. However, we're waiting for this main band to come on right here. And that's Thursday morning, real early. This really hasn't changed much in the last 72 hours. That's a very good sign for forecast consistency when you're dealing with a cutoff low, which is what this is, notoriously difficult to nail down in the models. But it's been staying put in the model depiction, which is a very good sign to this point. So the confidence is growing in the notion that Thursday morning, we get the widespread slug of moisture comes across. And then you'll see a few leftover showers will stay with us through Thursday afternoon and into the evening. And then there looks to be a follow-up little impulse that comes through on Friday. That one a bit more questionable, could even linger into part of Saturday. And when we put the rainfall totals on here, just looking at that one model, this is what the European model has to say. Just for Thursday, we get about an inch of rain in the North Bay. And it's equal. In other words, an inch of rain in San Jose, I think, is probably a bit overdone. But when you're this far out and the forecast model believes the potential is there, even if we say don't count on an inch of rain necessarily in the South Bay, but plan on noticeable quarter, half an inch of rain perhaps. The details, of course, will become clearer over about the next 36 hours. I know we've been saying that for the last few days, and that is still the case. Good to see that there's a lot of consistency in the forecast to this point, but it does look messy when you try to put it into a 7-day forecast. Primary day is Thursday. That's most likely going to be our first alert weather day if this forecast holds. And then keep your plans for the weekend now, but stay on top of the forecast. We're likely going to have to be refining some of the timing of this as we get closer to the weekend. Fingers crossed. It looks okay at this point, but stay with us.
And welcome back. Well, we are going to close tonight at the Oakland Zoo, where our local bears are having a hard time staying awake during this newscast.
Yeah, the zoo tells us that they are actually entering torpor season, an annual winter sleep similar to hibernation, but one that allows them to wake up easily and frequently if needed. I need to go through that season. I wonder,
sometimes I never emerge from it.
Yeah. You know, they say that animals sense earthquakes. And
you wonder if the bears sense the
I
earthquakes
wondered
more?
how the bears reacted today.
Apparently not with great fright, judging from that video.
They were just hanging out.
They're just hanging out. That's it for us at 5. We'll see you back here at 6 o'clock for another hour of news.
And local news continues streaming on CBS News Bay Area. Good night.
Good night.